Hello, hello, hello. It's me, it's me. It's the coupon lady, and this is my granddaughter.
Danae.
So, today we are going to talk about a touchy subject, most of all, but we're going to get back on the subject of talking about domestic violence. I had stopped doing a few videos because it got real emotional at times. So I just decided that I wouldn't talk about it right then and there. Danae is my granddaughter. She wasn't around when the domestic violence ended. She wasn't even born yet. So Danae has some questions about my own personal life being in domestic violence and just some other questions that she has. Here she is.
Okay, so my first question is, when was the first time you were abused by your partner at that
I think probably the first time was probably when I was probably about 15 or maybe 16 years old. I actually started dating, which he became my husband when I was probably about um, 14, 15 years old because we went to church together. So my parent, my mom, and my grandmother really allowed me to date him. So I can almost remember the first time that the domestic violence issue showed up. It was something about a moped. Um, he hit me because I pulled off on the moped, but I didn't pay that no mind. I thought that was just cute and just, you know, just cute.
Well, you kind of answered my second question already, but it was, did it ever happen before your marriage? Like, were you ever abused before your marriage?
Oh yeah. Well, by the time I was 18, I had already had. Actually, I think I was 18. No, yeah, I was going to be 18 by the time I had my first child. So we wasn't married at the time, but definitely the domestic violence started way before I even had my first child.
Okay. Once you had your children, did they ever see you get hit or like abused in any type of way? Did they ever see you experience that?
Um, well, my children at this point in their lives, they're kind of sensitive about it, so they really don't talk about it. But I'm for sure they was around with a couple of the incidences that happened coming up because if you look at some of my old videos, I was in it for about 14 years, maybe longer. So I'm sure they've seen some stuff, but I thank God every day that they're not abusers or they don't abuse people.
Okay. Did your children ever ask you about your husband?
Well, yeah, because my husband was their dad. So let me take that back. I don't know if they actually seen him hit me, but we still talk about this story now. What happened with my brother Russell when my brother Russell had to intervene in a situation. He didn't hit me, but he tried to hit one of my children. So I think that's when I lost it, even though he is their father. But I think that's when I almost lost my mind when he tried to hit one of the children.
Who was the first person you told about the incidents, and when was it?
Um, I don't know if I actually ever told anybody, but I think people could just see it. They can see the bruises on my face, seeing me just going down, being stuck in the house, not getting out a lot because of the domestic violence. They kind of shelter you, at least they try to shelter you from socializing with other people. And we truly didn't have Facebook back then. We didn't have cell phones back then. So social, social media was non existence back then.
Okay. Did you ever think this was going to happen, knowing that you knew him like from church and you used to go to church together? Did you ever think he would ever hit you or anything?
No mercy, Lord Jesus, no. I would have never thought that it would be me. And the thing about it is, I didn't even know a lot about domestic violence because it wasn't like they showed it on TV a lot. So I I don't even I don't think I even know of anybody. It was a hush hush thing. I was young, so that was in the early '80s. So even before then, I never really heard of anybody that was in domestic violence situations. Even though my mom was in a domestic violence situation, but she didn't talk about it a lot, and we truly didn't see it at all, even with my mom.
Okay. Was the police ever involved in, like, within your relationship? Did you ever get the police involved?
Oh my goodness, yes, plenty of times. I can't count the times that I had to call the police. The police would come out, they would take him, he would get arrested, but then I would go down to the courts and dismiss the charges. But nowadays, even I can't remember, I should have looked up that year. Now, if a woman presses charges or if the police is called, that person is arrested and you have to appear in court. You can't, you can no longer drop the charges. And most of this happened when I lived in Indiana. Nothing too much that I had to call. Well, yeah, I did call the police here too. A few times the police was called. Yeah.
Okay. Another question is, what was your last straw like when you finally had the courage to leave?
That's a good question. And I thank God most of all for just getting me out of domestic violence. I know it was nothing but prayer of the righteous. When I moved here to Maryland, first of all, I didn't think that I could make it by myself. I couldn't make it on my own. So I just, really just got down on my knees and just started crying out to God. It's like, God, if I know you want me to be out of this, I know you don't want me in domestic violence. But if you get him gone this time, Lord, I promise I won't let him come back. And I think the last straw is when he moved here and tried to take control of me and the children. And he had been gone. I can't count the time that he had been gone because he was still living in Indiana. So when he came here, he tried to take control of my life, and I was doing so well. I was doing so good in church. I had my friends, and I was just loving life. Um, so one time, his dad got sick. I never forget. His dad got sick, and he said that he needed to go back to take care of his dad. And I was like, "Yep, you sure do." And I knew then, Lord, this is it. When he get gone this time, I am not going to let him come back. So before he left, I said, when you get ready to come back, just call me and I'll send you the money. Well, he called me. It was about 2 weeks later at the most. And he said that he was ready to come back. And I told him on the phone, I'm going to let you know this now. You can never in your life come back here to live with us. And he started his half a first curse word. And he was going to cuss me out, and I hung up the phone on him.
Okay. Another question is, how do you think domestic violence affected or affects your life today?
Um, well, it seems like it's a time in my life now that it's affected me because I think I'm talking about it more, trying to get just trying to get a relief from it, not really trying to understand why I had to go through domestic violence, but I'm talking about it so much more now, and it's like it's therapy, just because my children asked me to do it, my sister asked me to do it. Cindy, talk about the domestic violence because you're going to help somebody else. So I think it's helping me just talking about it, being open about it, and not that I was closed-minded about it because I would talk to anybody about the domestic violence issues that I went through.
Okay. What would you have done differently if you could relive those occasions?
Oh man, if I could relive that first time on that moped, that would have been it. I like, I know you're abusive. That would have been it. And if I had a chance to be on a panel or talk to women, The first time he pushed you, that's it. I know. Well, I don't know her personally, but I heard of a story of a lady that lived around the corner from us when we lived in Indiana. She got married, and the guy hit her. That was it for her. She divorced him probably the next day. That's jokingly, but she never ever went back to that man. So I would have not stayed in that relationship.
Okay. My last question is, or statement slash question is, do you have any, well, do you have any words for people that's experienced the same thing you did? Like if they're in a relationship right now, what would you tell them, or what would you recommend them to do?
It first of all I could say is it's not easy to just get out of a relationship because you love a person. Um, and they call this thing the honeymoon stage. Sorry, everybody, we have to pause it right now.